Welcome to another episode of the Bliss Hour, and as you all know, my name is Bliss. Today we'll be having a distinguished guest from the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and trust me, it's going to be engaging and intriguing. I myself can't wait to dive into this section. But before we dive, sit tight, we'll be right back. Like I said, we have a distinguished person in our midst today. Please, sir, do us the honor of introducing yourself.
So I'm glad to be with you, Bless. My name is Chris Holland, and I am a pastor. My role or my title is Senior Evangelist for Hope Channel International. What that means is I simply travel around and I share with people about the Bible, about Jesus, and about how they can find their real purpose in life.
It's glad to have you here with us, sir.
I'm glad to be with you.
Yes, sir. I would like to ask, how has Nigeria been for you? The people, their culture, how has it been for you?
You know, this is now my second time in Nigeria. I came in July, and I love the people of Nigeria. I feel, and I don't just say this, sometimes people can say little cliches. I truly feel like this has become a part of my family, and I have become a part of your family.
It's a comfortable place for you to stay.
Very comfortable, very comfortable. And my wife has not been with me, but my wife and I love cultures and we love food. And so I love learning about new food. And so I've been able to experience some of the food of Nigeria. I've been able to visit some of the markets. Of course, I'm speaking. And then this journey, they've provided me with clothing that is Nigerian. It is very comfortable. And so I will probably go back to America wearing Nigerian clothing and feeling very comfortable in it. And the weather, the weather is hotter than where I'm from, but that's okay. It is a relief to be in a warmer place sometimes.
Okay. As a pastor that you are, how do you feel to serve the church?
You know, I was a young man, and I'm going to guess I was younger than you. I was probably 21 years old when I was trying to understand my purpose in life. And this one day I began to wonder, what would it be like to serve God as a pastor? And the reason I wondered that is I was, throughout my young adult life, from 18 to about 21 years old, I didn't have purpose. In fact, there was a point in my life where I actually considered taking my own life, committing suicide, because I didn't find purpose. And when I encountered the Bible, I saw my purpose. And I saw that God had a purpose and that God loves me. And then from there, when I found that purpose and I wanted to live, then I said, I really want to share with others about this. And so my joy in ministry is seeing a life, in particular, the life of a young person or a young adult, but for all people, to find purpose, to find their destiny, and to live out that purpose and find joy in that purpose. And that's really been my joy in ministry, is traveling around the world, helping people find that worth and that purpose, in particular, through the Bible and in Jesus Christ, because God has a purpose for every life. And this is where I have found great joy in ministry.
So in other words, sir, you have great joy in pastoral ministry.
Absolutely.
That's lovely. So talking about the theme, Almost Home, what really inspired it?
Actually locally, right here in Nigeria, they chose that theme, and then I was a part of that. But something that's very important to me is I understand. I live in the United States. I don't live in Nigeria, and I've traveled to other places. I don't live in Zimbabwe. I don't live in South Africa. So I don't pretend to understand the culture. I try to understand the culture, but it's most important to me that the leaders locally really come up with these ideas. And the local leaders are the ones that came up with the idea of Almost Home. And I think how fitting. Why is that fitting in such a time like what we live? And it's not just a challenge in Nigeria, but it's a challenge all around the world. There are many people that are homeless. They literally have no home. And whether they literally have no structure to go and lay their head at night, or maybe they don't have family anymore. all of their immediate family has died and they feel like there's no home, to understand that there is a home that we have. And God, Jesus, has said He's preparing a place that's home for us. And and by the way, I talk about Jesus a lot. And for the atheist or for someone of another world religion, whether you understand Jesus to be God as I do or not, the one thing we can say is that Jesus was a great teacher that lived on this earth. And He said there's something to look forward to. And so the theme of Almost Home lets us know there's something that we can look forward to, something beyond our current experience that's better, that is going to give us great joy, even if we don't have joy in our immediate situation.
Okay, that's nice to hear, sir. So, if we were to talk about your experience as an evangelist, a traveling evangelist, can you give us little details of how it has been in other countries?
Sure. Yeah, So one of my favorite stories is I went to Zimbabwe 7 years ago. And when I was in Zimbabwe, we were staying in a hotel, and we had rented all the rooms in the hotel because we had a big team with us. And the chef there was a wonderful man, and he cooked very good food, but he was cooking American food. And for me, when I'm preaching, if I'm going to understand people, I need to understand what their everyday life is. And part of everyday life, a big part of everyday life, is what do we eat? And so I came to the chef and I said to the chef, I said, listen, my dear brother, I love your food. You're a wonderful chef. But could you make some food that the people of Zimbabwe would eat? And he smiled. And after that, every day we would have sadza, which is the equivalent. I think here in Nigeria you have something called pop.
Yes.
But it's the same thing as pop. And then we would have butternut squash and mushrooms and vegetables, and very similar in some ways to the food in Nigeria. But there in Zimbabwe, what amazed me, and it's really wherever, the world is in desperate need. There are hungry people everywhere. There are thirsty people everywhere. There are widows everywhere. There are orphans everywhere. There are single mothers everywhere. There are people that are, I know that there are many people here in Nigeria that have incredible economic challenges in their life. When I went to Zimbabwe, you have to remember in 2008, Zimbabwe was printing a $1 trillion bill that was worth $5. There were people working and they weren't getting paid. They just wanted to work so they could work. So there was great economic difficulty, and that's all over the world. And so I've had the opportunity to travel to South Africa. I've had the opportunity to travel to, depending on where you're from, Tanzania, or and then I've been able to go to Europe and share the gospel. For 5 years, I lived in Canada. I'm a U.S. citizen, but I lived in Canada. I've had the opportunity to go to South America and Brazil. And I can tell you that, as I said, there's a common theme. Everywhere around the world, there are people looking for purpose. And one of the great joys in my life is helping people find their divine purpose.
That's nice, sir. It's really lovely to hear, sir. So talking about the Adventist Church, the method of preaching in Adventist Church,
yes.
What do you think is the best method of exposing our biblical doctrines to non-Adventists?
So I think the best, and I say this as somebody who preaches, is not actually through preaching. Now, preaching is important, but the best is like what you and I are doing, to come up to a friend and share with a friend. I can tell you I have remarkable conversations with people on an airplane, going to your neighbor. Now, in this case, while I'm preaching here in Port Harcourt, there's a satellite that's taking this message to the entire world. And so I know that there was a message from somebody from Houston, Texas, a message from somebody in Edmonton, Alberta, a message from somebody in Australia. And the reason these people are watching is because a friend came and said, hey, listen, I want you to see something. I want to share something with you. And so that one-on-one sharing is, in fact, the most powerful method. In fact, this is what Jesus did. The Bible says that Jesus went to the cities, towns, and villages, and he reached out and he touched people. He touched their lives. He fed people. He provided medical care for people. And then he taught them. He taught them about his mission, who God is, and what difference God can make in their life. And so what is the most effective method? Is one-on-one, sharing with a friend, sharing with a neighbor, and letting them know who Jesus is to you, and what he's done in your life.
That's nice. So you're trying to say that there's no particular method of sharing these doctrines?
No, well, I will tell you, I have heard of amazing stories of people. I've heard of people that were deaf, that could not speak, but they shared the gospel, and how they shared the gospel. And I'm older than you, but before DVDs and before YouTube, there were VHS tapes. And this person would take these tapes, and he would go to his neighbor's home, and he could not speak. He couldn't even hear them, but he would let them know he was very excited. And he would go to the VCR, and he would put that in, and then a preacher would preach. Bible studies work for some people. Online, you are a YouTube influencer, and YouTube is an amazing way to share with your friends and your family. There are so many different ways, and when we look at the Bible, even Jesus shared in different ways. Jesus only fed 5,000 people. He fed 5,000 people. Then another time he fed, several thousand. But Jesus used different ways to touch people's lives, and in the same way. So there is no one way in which you can share with your friends. There are various ways. And, in the Bible, David, when he had to go fight the giant Goliath, they put on him Saul's armor. The armor was too big. It was too heavy. And David said, I cannot fight in this. And so I don't know if you have the same saying in Nigeria, but in America we have a saying, you have to fight in your own armor. You are who you are. And so you're a YouTuber. And so one of the ways you can share your faith is through YouTube. I'm a preacher. And so one of the ways is through satellite evangelism. There are many ways to share your faith.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Before we come to the end of the segment,
Yes.
Do you have like a favorite dish in this country?
Do I have
A favorite dish?
A favorite
Like
dish?
favorite food?
Wow. That's a difficult question. So I will tell you, I had a mango when I was here in July.
Okay.
And I said this when I was speaking here. It's the best mango that I've had anywhere in the world. But I will tell you, and I don't know the name of the dish, but I had it with gari. So I like gari.
Okay.
And then there were vegetables. And I think in the vegetables, is it bitter leaf? Is this what it was called? Am I bitter leaf? And so I'm a vegetarian. And so all the vegetables, very delicious. And I like spicy food. So the spice is very good for me.
Thank you very much, sir. So to our online viewers watching, the youth out there, and an Adventist youth, what do you have to tell the youth of today?
So what I would say to those of you that are watching is, often people will say the young people are the future of the church. This is not true. Young people are the church today. So you're a part of the church, and you're an important part of the church. And I want to encourage you, don't ever forget that you are an important part of the church. You make a difference. And it is you who will lead your friends. It is you through the various social media. Just like Bliss here is a YouTube influencer now. You could be a YouTube influencer. Maybe you're an Instagram influencer. Maybe you're using TikTok, whatever you're using, or maybe you're just talking to your friends. Whatever it is, you are an important part of the church. God can use you. God has a purpose for your life. If you ever question what your purpose in your life is, go to the Bible, pray, and God will help you. God will show you your purpose, and He will show you your divine destiny, and be a part of God's final movement, because Jesus is coming soon.
Thank you very much, sir, for honoring our invitation. Thank you.